All right, today I'm changing the coolant on a 2012 Mercedes Sprinter V6 turbo diesel. Um, so hopefully this should be an easy job. I'm gonna show you under the hood a couple tips before you get started about the different types of fluid, because I had some issues sourcing the right antifreeze for the coolant on this van. So let's get started. Okay, so when I was doing some research on the type of coolant used in this Mercedes Sprinter van, it's a 2012 V6 turbo diesel. The manual said that you could use G05 or G48 Xerex. So I just got G05 online and figured I'd use that. When it showed up, I opened the bottle and realized that it was a gold yellow color. And what I have currently in the van is a blue color. So I did some research and found out that the blue, I believe, is the G48, and I don't think you're supposed to mix the two coolants, so I had to return the unopened bottle, and I'm just gonna have to, dispose of the open bottle, and then I went out and got the G48. So before you buy coolant, check the coolant in your van. If it's blue, it's G48. I think G48 is the latest spec. So it supersedes all other specs. And then the G05 is an older specs. If your coolant is yellow or goldish color, that's the G05. And since you really cannot get all the coolant out, I suggest you stick with whatever you have already in the van. So I'm just gonna do a simple flush or drain of the radiator and then a refill. There's nowhere to drain the block. You can't, as far as I know, you can't force the heater core open. So I'm just gonna drain the radiator and then refill it with the same type of coolant. So double check your coolant. Okay, so I've already hooked up a hose to drain the coolant from the drain point. It's pretty hard to see, so I'm gonna try to get it at a good angle. It's on the driver's side, just below the air filter, the air inlet, on the left side, driver's side of the radiator. And if you can see right there, on the driver's side, there's a little nozzle that you can hook up a hose to, little rubber hose, and then that is going to be right where that red rubber hose is. That is the little knob, the valve that we're going to open by turning it counterclockwise. I believe it's 90 degrees. Now I've read that some people have trouble. They can only get it about we got to turn it 180 degrees. I've read that some people have trouble. They can only get it to 90 degrees, but I believe you have to jiggle it and it will go to 180 degrees, which will be half turn open. So let me see if I can get it open, and then I'll take a little more video. Okay, it's draining. I did have to use some pliers to very lightly turn that knob 180 degrees. I mean, it really came out pretty easy. It really turned pretty easy with the pliers. I just didn't have enough finger strength to turn it. And you can see that it's like a threaded little knob. So as you turn it, it's gonna come out towards the firewall, because it is like threaded, and you got to turn it 180 degrees. It turned 90 degrees pretty easy, but then the last 90 degrees I needed to use the pliers, and now it is draining. And I'm keeping track. This little container tells me how many quarts, to make sure I put the same quarts back. And then, I'm gonna fill it up till it won't take anymore, but at least I got an idea of how much came out. Now this fluid, again, is blue, the G48. It looks pretty good. I think this was recently replaced. I think the manual says you can go 150,000 miles. I'm not gonna go that long. I think probably 50,000 is when I'll change it. It seems to be a pretty straightforward job. So once this is done draining, I'm gonna close that valve and then refill it. All right, I was able to get a total of 7 quarts of coolant out. It did help that I jacked up the rear end of the van, used my floor jack, jacked up the rear end, put some chocks in there so I could jack it up high, try to get it to drain out. I would say maybe drained out another half a quart or a whole quart. So, but I got out a total of 7, and I have these G48 1 gallon containers, which would be a total of 8 quarts. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fill it up. I should have a quart left over. I'm gonna drain a quart out of it, or a little under a quart, and then I'm gonna fill it up again with the last quart that I have left, only because I don't want to have any leftover new coolant, because I don't want to hold on to it to the next time I do this. I'd rather have old coolant come out, so I'll kind of use it to flush the radiator a little bit, put all the new coolant inside, and then have 8 quarts of, you know, coolant that's been ran through the radiator, so like a little flush. So anyways, I've already put one in. I'm going to put the second one in. For filling it up, I did raise the front of the vehicle. I raised the passenger side by using a floor jack with the rubber pad underneath the control arm on the passenger side to try to get the highest point to be over here where I'm filling it. That way you get all the air out. So let me finish filling it, and then I should have a quart left over, and then I'm going to drain a quart, and then I'm going to add the last quart of new coolant. Okay, I put the 7 quarts in. It got to the max line on that reservoir. That's where I put the coolant in, is on the reservoir. Got to the max line. It was bubbling up through the reservoir. I turned the van on. I turned the heat all the way up, and I was giving it gas, or giving it, you know, stepping on the accelerator, try to get that water pump to circulate the coolant, to get those air bubbles out, to work their way out. The way I have it set up, the air bubble should go to the coolant reservoir, and I could see it bubbling, and now the level's gone down. It's about halfway between min and max. Okay, I've drained all the old fluid out. Like I said, I was able to get 7 quarts out. I put all 8 quarts in. It was over the max fill line over there, and then what I did, I just turned the knob here, the drain plug. I opened it, and then till that line was just over the max line. I'm sure it's gonna burp a little bit more, and that line will come down. And then that way I put all the new coolant into the system, and I was able to get 7 out of the old fluid. I think the total capacity is around 10, so there's 3 quarts that I was not able to get out, probably what's in the block and in the heater core. But 7 out of 10 is not bad, especially if you do it frequently. I think the manual says 150,000 miles. That just seems like too many. I'll probably do it every 50, or maybe split the difference, 75,000. Okay, that's it. Like I said, all in all, pretty simple job. There's really nothing to it. The important pieces, or the important parts of the job, is getting the right coolant. If it's blue, get the G48. If it's yellow, get the G5. Using the 50-50 mix is really easy, and really 2 gallons should be enough. The capacity is 10.7 something, but you can't get it all out, nor do I think you have to if you're changing it pretty frequent, like every 50,000 miles or 70,000 miles, you should be fine. And to open up that valve, the drain plug, you got to turn it 180 degrees. You might need to use some pliers, put a tube on it. It really doesn't make that much of a mess. And so I suggest lifting the front of the vehicle up to make sure you get all the air out to the reservoir. And that's it. So hope that helps.